According to Piers Steele, author of the Procrastination Equation, about 95% of people admit to procrastinating, but I reckon every single one of us procrastinates to some extent, including myself, right? So from as young as I can remember, up until I was about 20 years old, I had such a big problem with procrastination. Whenever it was time to just, I don't know, sit down and study or sit down and work, I just couldn't. I really couldn't. There was a gazillion other things that I'd rather be doing. I'd just get distracted so easily. However, about 10 years ago, I finally overcame my procrastination problem. I implemented a handful of strategies that systematically, every single day for about a year or maybe 2 years, it chipped away at my procrastination to the point where now I can work without procrastinating. And so those systematic strategies that I implemented that had such a powerful effect on me, I'm going to go through them step by step in this video. I think it's also important to really understand why procrastination is so destructive, right? Because for me, most of my life, procrastination was a problem, but I didn't see it as a problem. Therefore, I didn't really do anything to fix it. So as a direct result of my procrastination, I was living such a kind of a boring and mundane life, but I didn't know any better. It wasn't until I failed my exams at high school and I wasn't accepted into university. This was absolutely soul crushing. That's when everything changed, which leads me on to my first point: use your failures as rocket fuel. I didn't realize it at the time, but that sinking feeling in my stomach from opening my university decision letters and the few months after that of not really knowing what to do with my life, it was all a blessing. It felt so bad at the time, but on hindsight, I'm genuinely glad that all those universities rejected my application, because it's kind of scary to think where I'd be if I just kind of scraped through and managed to secure a place at university, and then I would just kind of continue procrastinating, continue getting bad grades, and my life wouldn't really change. So that one setback, that one failure, it generated so much motivation within me that I started this very YouTube channel about 6 years ago. And I just wanted to help as many other people in the same situation as me. I love the saying, failure is the tuition you pay for success, because it's so true. As long as you actually use your failure as rocket fuel, you're all set. In fact, in my company, with my team, we love failures. I love to see my team fail, because if they're not failing, they're not really putting themselves out there. In fact, we love failures so much that our weekly meetings start with wins and failures for that week. And I often go first because there's not one week that goes by where I don't fail at something. And all those incremental failures, I learned from every single one. For example, I used to use the same password for all my accounts online. And then one day a friend came to me and he showed me his phone and he said, "Mike, this is your password, isn't it?" And my heart sank, because sure enough, on his phone screen, he was showing me my own password that I thought was secure. And it turns out that there was a big data breach in 2012 where a very well-known cloud storage company was hacked and 68 million users' passwords were leaked. From then onwards, I learned how important a password manager such as this video's sponsor, NordPass, is. NordPassword Business is a secure way to remember your usernames and passwords. So I've been using a password manager for years now, and I genuinely couldn't go back to just having the same password for every account as I used to. It's just far too easy to have all of your accounts hacked in one go. Now my passwords are all completely random numbers, letters and symbols, because I don't need to remember the passwords for any of my accounts. That's what NordPass Business does. It stores all your usernames and passwords in one super secure place, which number one makes all your accounts far more secure, But number two, it saves you so much time because you're not having to firstly type out or try to remember what your password is, because NordPass will fill the password field out with just one click. And NordPass Business is also particularly helpful for sharing company login details between teams to make collaboration easy. And this makes the process of giving employees access to passwords so much more efficient. And if a new employee joins the company, it's super easy to give and revoke access effortlessly. At the end of the day, NordPass Business is all about increasing the security of your accounts and increasing the efficiency of logging into your accounts. So you can see NordPass Business in action now with a 3-month free trial at nordpass.com/MikeD and use the code MikeD. I really recommend you start using a password manager if you don't already, of course, and secondly, just for the amount of time that it's going to save you. So moving on to the second strategy that I implemented to overcome my procrastination addiction was I removed my self-limiting beliefs. Now, I know what you're thinking. How on earth do you do that? So let me explain. Our beliefs and what we think about ourselves are a huge determining factor on how prone we are to procrastination. And Piers Steel, author of the Procrastination Equation, explains it perfectly. He wrote, "Beliefs are powerful because they form or directly affect expectancy. As you become less optimistic or less confident in your ability to achieve, so the lower your self-confidence, the lower your motivation is likely to be, therefore the more you'll be prone to procrastination, which will lower your self-confidence even more, and it's this kind of vicious cycle that you get stuck in. And that's exactly what I experienced for most of my life. I had a huge procrastination problem because I didn't believe that I was capable of really achieving anything worthwhile. So what was the point, right? What's the point on studying for A grades if I didn't believe I was even capable of achieving them, right? It would just be a waste of time. Or at least that's where my mindset was at the time. Poor self-perception then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By expecting to fail, we make failure a certainty because we never dig in and make an intensive effort. So what I did to counteract that was I surrounded myself with greatness, the people that inspired me, the all-time greats, Warren Buffett, Will Smith, Michael Jordan, the kind of legends in their industry. I started to read their books. I started listening to their interviews, watching documentaries. I would consume as much content as I possibly could from the greatest people on the planet. And over the period of several months, my own self-belief started to rise gradually because I thought, okay, if these people can achieve these kind of phenomenal worldwide successes, then surely I can get an A on my next exam, right? Or I can edit this short 3-minute video for YouTube, or I can start going to the gym and get a little bit healthier. And so I just started doing stuff and put myself out there. I did things that I wouldn't have even dreamed of just a few months back. But it was paying off. My grades back then started to increase. People began to watch my YouTube videos. I slowly became stronger and fitter. I started building relatively successful businesses. And all these successes just kind of kept fueling my motivation. And there was a very strong negative correlation between my motivation and my procrastination. As my motivation increased, my procrastination decreased to the point where I could go through an entire day without procrastinating at all, which was almost impossible just a couple of years before. There is one thing though that I learned very quickly, and that was that I needed to obey the law of forced efficiency. So the law of forced efficiency states that there is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing. And this is incredibly important to understand when it comes to procrastination, right? So one of the most powerful strategies I've implemented this year when it comes to being productive is that instead of having a massive long daily to-do list, I just have a very kind of vague weekly schedule with the most important tasks, anywhere from 1 task a day to 4 tasks a day. So whatever happens that day, as long as I complete those tasks, then it's been a very productive day. Because I think the average person today is just far too busy, where they're kind of overwhelming themselves with tasks that just aren't that important. and the job responsibilities just keep piling up. The ideal scenario of getting caught up on your projects is just not realistic. A more kind of achievable goal is to stay on top of your most critical tasks, because the busier you get, the more overwhelmed you become, and the easier procrastination can creep in. Because procrastination is a very kind of slow moving enemy. And an analogy that I think really illustrates the destructive nature of procrastination is eating junk food, right? So if you go to McDonald's and you buy a Big Mac and fries once every month, it's probably not going to cause too much damage. It's not particularly healthy, but once a month, there's no kind of significant damage to your health, right? However, if you go to McDonald's once a week, every week, okay, that's when the health concerns might start to begin. But then you kind of become truly addicted and you start eating McDonald's 4 days a week, or even every day for the duration of your lifetime, then the health risks really start to rack up. So you're now at significant risk of obesity, of cancer, suffering heart diseases, strokes, diabetes, depression, all these kind of illnesses that are significantly decreasing the quality of your life. In the same way, if you procrastinate every now and then it's probably not going to be a problem. But if your procrastination becomes a kind of a habitual addiction, like it was with me, then you can easily find yourself incredibly unhappy. As Charlotte Lieberman wrote in the New York Times, over time, chronic procrastination has not only productivity costs, but measurable destructive effects on our mental and physical health, including chronic stress, general psychological distress, and low life satisfaction, symptoms of depression and anxiety, poor health behaviors, chronic illness, and even hypertension and cardiovascular disease. So after all that, overcoming my procrastination addiction was, without a doubt, it has completely changed my life, right? In a very good way. I actually uploaded a video recently on my 3 daily habits to overcome procrastination. You can click on the card on the screen to watch that. Alternatively, I uploaded another video called my minimalist productivity system, where I go through the daily apps I use to help keep procrastination at bay. Again, you can click on the card on the screen to watch that.